Hello students, I am VLN Swarupini, lecturer in biochemistry from Sri Venkateswara College of Arts and Science, which is affiliated to Adikavi Nannaya University, Rajahmundry. Now I would like to discuss about second BSc biochemistry paper, that is intermediary metabolism. For this fourth semester, we have this intermediary metabolism as your paper. So let's see about this particular paper, and we have discussed a few more topics from this unit, and now we are moving to the next topic, that is hexose monophosphate shunt or pentose phosphate pathway. Okay, so we call this particular pathway as hexose monophosphate shunt or pentose phosphate pathway. So here most of the compounds produced in this particular pathway are hexose monophosphates, hexoses, and also pentose phosphates. That's why we call them as we call this particular pathway as hexose monophosphate pathway or HMP shunt, and we can also call this as pentose phosphate pathway. And also phosphogluconate pathway is also another name for this particular uh, pathway. Why? Because the first formed intermediate is 6 phosphogluconate gluconate gluconolactate. So based on that, this particular pathway is called as phosphogluconate pathway. So finally, this HMP shunt or simply this pathway consists of three names: hexose monophosphate pathway, pentose phosphate pathway, phosphogluconate pathway. So these three are the names given to this particular pathway. So here, if you see a new word like shunt is seen. So till now we have discussed about glycolysis pathway, Krebs cycle, and other glycogenolysis, glycogenesis, gluconeogenesis, but we never seen about the word shunt. So here, in case of this HMP shunt, why we call this particular pathway as HMP shunt and why we use the word shunt means here forceful move of this glucose molecule is seen. So that's why this particular pathway is mentioned as HMP shunt. So now let's see what is this HMP shunt or what is this pentose phosphate pathway. So basically this is an alternative pathway for the glycolysis and Krebs cycle. And in case of absence of glycolysis and Krebs cycle in any individual, what happens is this HMP shunt will be carried for the oxidation of glucose. This is the alternative pathway for the glycolysis and TCA cycle for the oxidation of glucose. Okay. So this HMP shunt is more anabolic in nature. So here anabolism means smaller molecules will be helpful in the conversion of a complex molecule. If catabolism means larger complex molecule is converted into smaller and simpler molecules. So here anabolism means smaller molecules are combined to form a larger complex molecule. So the HMP shunt is a anabolic pathway, and also this is concerned with the biosynthesis of NADH and pentoses. So this NADH, one NADH is equal to 2 ATP, sorry, 3 ATP. So This particular pathway is also an alternative pathway for this glucose and TCA cycle. Of course, this glucose and TCA cycle, these particularly are responsible for the production of ATP molecules. And as this HMP shunt is the alternative pathway for glucose and glycolysis and TCA cycle, this is also responsible for the production of NADPH and pentosis, and particularly this NADPH are equivalent to ATP molecules. One NADPH is equivalent to 3 ATP molecules. Now let's see location of the pathway. So here the enzymes of HMP shunt are located in the cytosol. Obviously, it occurs in the cytosol of tissues like liver, adipose tissue, adrenal gland, erythrocytes, testes, and lactating mammary glands. Okay, that means cytosol of liver, adipose tissue, adrenal gland, erythrocytes, testes, and lactating mammary glands are the major uh, location for this particular HMP shunt. So now let's see about the reactions of this pathway. If you see the major reactions here, these reactions are seen in two phases, that is oxidative and non-oxidative phase. So first let's see about this oxidative phase. In this oxidative phase, glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase is an Na-dependent enzyme. This is the first enzyme to to be used in this pathway, and as a result of the action of this particular glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase, the first intermediate product, that is 6 phosphogluconolactone, will be produced. So as the first step in this HMP shunt, what happens? Glucose 6 phosphate is converted into 6 phosphogluconolactone. Okay. Okay, glucose 6 phosphate is converted into 6 phosphogluconolactone, and here the enzyme responsible for for this reaction is glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase. Okay, so this is the first step, and this is seen in the oxidative phase. And the next step is this 6 phosphogluconolactone is converted into 6 phosphogluconate. 6 phosphogluconate by the activity of the enzyme gluconolactohydrolase. So here the enzyme gluconolactohydrolase in what it will do, it will convert the 6 phosphogluconolactone into 6 phosphogluconate. Okay, so here one water molecule is utilized during this reaction, and here if you observe the enzyme itself, you can identify about this hydrolysis. So here gluconolactone hydrolase. Hydrolase means there will be involvement of water molecule, and here during this reaction water molecule is utilized. Okay, water molecule is utilized, and in the next reaction what happens is this particular 6 phosphogluconate is converted into ribulose 5 phosphate. Okay, ribulose 5 phosphate, and the enzyme is phosphogluconate dehydrogenase. Phosphogluconate dehydrogenase. See, the next reaction involves the synthesis of NADPH. So that means during this step of conversion of 6 phosphogluconate to ribulose 5 phosphate, there is production of NADPH. NADPH. Okay, and this is also a Mg2 plus dependent enzyme. Which enzyme? Phosphogluconodehydrogenase. Okay, and this will produce ribulose 5-phosphate. This will produce ribulose 5-phosphate. So by this we came to an end of this oxidative phase. So during the oxidative phase, what happened? Glucose 6-phosphate. Wait, I'll show you the structures. See, so this is glucose 6-phosphate. It is converted into 6-phosphogluconolactone by the enzyme glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. And in the next step, what happened? And if you observe here, this is a NAD plus dependent enzyme, and here also NADPH plus H plus is released in the during the first step also. And in the second step, what happened? This particular 6-phosphogluconolactone is converted into 6-phosphogluconate. Okay, and the enzyme activity is gluconolactone hydrolase, and here water molecule will be utilized, and this 6-phosphogluconate is converted into ribulose 5-phosphate by the enzyme phosphogluconate dehydrogenase. Phosphogluconate dehydrogenase. Here also NADPH will be released. So this is the oxidative phase that we see in this particular hexose monophosphate shunt or HMP shunt. Now let's see the non-oxidative phase. So now let's see the non-oxidative phase. Here just please concentrate here. Why? Because this non-oxidative phase is little bit complex. These reactions are little bit complex, so please concentrate over here. So here in this non-oxidative reactions, here interconversion of 3, 4 or 5 and 7 carbon monosaccharides will be seen. So 3 means 3 means trioses, 4 means tetroses, 5 means pentoses, and 7 means hexoses. So these are the different monosaccharides based on the number of carbons, and here all these compounds will be interconverted. Okay, so till now we have seen a sequential catabolic pathways, sequential metabolic pathways. That means from glucose to glucose 6-phosphate, glucose 6-phosphate to fructose 6-phosphate, in that manner. But here two compounds will combine to form another two compounds. That means, best example, the first reaction of this non-oxidative phosphorylation. That means this ribulose 5-phosphate, this is converted into xylose 5-phosphate and ribose 5-phosphate. So ribulose is converted into xylose 5-phosphate and ribose 5-phosphate individually by the action of two different enzymes. Okay, and later what happens is xylose 5-phosphate and ribose 5-phosphate are converted into pseudoheptulose 7-phosphate and another G3P, and the compound G3P. So here, so single compound is formed from single compound means no, these two compounds are helpful in the production of two other compounds, and here if you see xylulose 5-phosphate is a 5-phosphate means nothing but this is a 5-carbon compound, and ribose 5-phosphate means it is a also a 5-carbon compound. So here if you see totally will have 10 carbons. If you combine the xylulose 5-phosphate and ribulose 5-phosphate will have 10 carbons, and these after reaction pseudoheptylose 7-phosphate and G3P. G3P means glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So these two products, intermediate products were produced, and here the pseudoheptylose 7-phosphate means it contains 7 carbons, and Z3P, that is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, means it contains 3 carbons. So the 10 carbons which are present with xylulose 5-phosphate and ribulose 5-phosphate on a whole is distinguished. It is divided between the pseudoheptylose 7-phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So this particular non-oxidative phase is little complex. So listen carefully. So now let's see from first once again. So whatever the end product that we got in oxidative phase is ribulose 5-phosphate, which is a 5-carbon compound, and by the action of epimerase epimerase enzyme, that is ribulose 5-phosphate epimerase. By activity of this ribulose 5-phosphate epimerase, we will get xylulose 5-phosphate. By the action of epimerase on the ribulose 5-phosphate, we will get xylulose 5-phosphate. From this epimerase, we will get xylulose 5-phosphate. And by the action of ribulose 5-phosphate dehydrogenase, we will get the compound ribose 5-phosphate. Okay, so whatever the enzyme which is acting upon that particular ribulose 5-phosphate will decide the intermediate product that to be formed. Okay, so here if it is a epimerase, xylulose 5-phosphate will be produced, and if it is a dehydrogenase, then ribose 5-phosphate will be produced. So now we have seen the first step of the non-oxidative phase, and the second step is the enzyme transketolase. The enzyme transketolase will catalyze the transfer of 2-carbon moiety from xylulose 5-phosphate and ribose 5-phosphate to give 3-carbon glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and 7-carbon pseudoheptylose 7-phosphate. So here this xylulose 5-phosphate and ribose 5-phosphate both are 5-carbon compounds, and here xylulose 5-phosphate, which is a 5-carbon compound, 2 carbon moiety is separated and it is given to the ribose 5-phosphate to make it into a pseudoheptylose 7-phosphate, and as a result of this reaction, along with pseudoheptylose 7-phosphate, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is also produced. Okay, and here this transketolase is a TPP dependent enzyme. TPP means thiamine pyrophosphate, and also this transketolase requires Mg2 plus ions. Mg2 plus ions. So now we have two products, that is this pseudoheptylose 7-phosphate and also glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Pseudoheptylose 7-phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Now what happens? The enzyme transaldolase, what it will do is it brings about the transfer of a 3-carbon fragment from pseudoheptylose 7-phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate to form fructose 6-phosphate and 4-carbon erythrose 4-phosphate. So here also if you see pseudoheptylose 7-phosphate means 7 carbon atoms, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate means 3 carbon atoms. Total we have 10 carbon atoms. Now by the action of transaldolase, what happens is 3 carbon fragments. That means this pseudoheptulose have 7 carbons, and 3 carbon moiety is moved to the G3P. Then what happens? These 3 which were donated from the pseudoheptulose, and already G3P contains 3. So total 6 carbon product fructose 6 phosphate will be produced. And after giving 3 carbon moiety to the G3P to form fructose 6 phosphate, this pseudoheptulose 7 phosphate will contain 4 carbon atoms. So this 4 carbon moiety is nothing but erythrose 4 phosphate. Okay, erythrose 4 phosphate. So here pseudoheptulose 7 phosphate and G3P, these two formed erythrose 4 phosphate, and the other compound is fructose 6 phosphate. Okay, and previously what happened? Ribulose 5 phosphate, by the action of epimerase, it is converted into xylulose 5 phosphate, and by the action of dehydrogenase it formed ribose 5 phosphate. Okay, so here again this xylulose 5 phosphate and ribose 5 phosphate, so these two are combined to form pseudoheptulose 7 phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. Okay, and again now what happened? Pseudoheptulose 7 phosphate and G3P. So again what happened? Erythrose 4 phosphate and fructose 6 phosphate were formed. So in this manner each and every reaction in this non-oxidative phase will be carried. And now we have erythrose 4 phosphate and fructose 6 phosphate. Now let's see what will happen to these intermediates now. So again here action of transketolase is seen. So what is the other reaction in which this transketolase catalyzed? Xylulose 5 phosphate and ribulose 5 phosphate were converted into pseudoheptulose 7 phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate by the action of transketolase. Here again transketolase came into action with this erythrose 4 phosphate. Now this transketolase, it will act with a xylulose 5 phosphate. Okay, so xylulose 5 phosphate, you may wonder from where the xylulose 5 phosphate came now. So this is in any metabolic pathway, every pathway is a continuous process. So this xylulose phosphate is taken from the newly formed molecule. Okay, this is a newly formed, this xylulose 5 phosphate is a newly formed molecule, and this xylulose 5 phosphate again combines with erythrose 4 phosphate. So again what will happen is this this 5 carbon compound, that is xylulose 5 phosphate, and 4 carbon compound erythrose 4 phosphate. So here we have 9 carbon products. So transketolase will act on this xylulose 5 phosphate and transfers 2 carbon fragment from into the erythrose 4 phosphate. So again what happens? Erythrose 5 carbon compound, that means here 5 carbons are present, 2 carbon moiety or 2 carbon fragment is transferred to the erythrose 4 phosphate. So 4 plus 2, 6 carbon compound, that is fructose 6 phosphate is formed. fructose 6 phosphate is formed, and whatever the 3 carbon moiety left from the xylulose 5 phosphate will turn into glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. Okay, so now we have glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate and fructose 6 phosphate. Now this particular glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate and fructose 6 phosphate can be further catabolized through glycolysis and citric acid cycle. Now glucose may also be synthesized from these two compounds. Okay, so fructose 6 phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, these are the two major compounds that we commonly see in glycolytic pathway. Excuse me. So in this glycolytic pathway, if you see fructose 6 phosphate, this is converted into fructose 1,6 bisphosphate, and fructose 1,6 bisphosphate is split into G3P and DHAP, and G3P is converted into further products. So here in this manner, these two products again will involve in the glycolytic and Krebs cycle pathways. Okay, so in the absence of sufficient amount of glucose, this particular HMP shunt is performed in our body. If you see this overall reaction, 6 glucose 6 phosphate plus 12 NADP plus 6 H2O gives rise to 6 CO2 plus 12 NADPH plus 12 H plus 3 glucose 6 phosphate. So this is the overall reaction of this particular HMP shunt. Now let's see the cycle. Now let's see the pathway. So first step, glucose 6 phosphate. Glucose 6 phosphate is converted into 6 phosphogluconate by the enzyme glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase, and this particular 6 phosphogluconolactone is converted into 6 phosphogluconate. Okay, and this 6 phosphogluconate is converted into ribulose 5 phosphate by the enzyme phosphogluconate dehydrogenase, and next glucose 5 phosphate is converted into xylulose 5 phosphate by the action of ribulose 5 phosphate epimerase, and ribulose 5 phosphate is converted into ribose 5 phosphate by the activity of ribose 5 phosphate dehydrogenase enzyme. So here it is dehydrogenase. Okay, so finally this xylulose 5 phosphate and ribose 5 phosphate were produced, and later trans-ketolase enzyme with the help of TPP and Mg2 plus will act upon these two products to form other two products, that is pseudoheptylose 7 phosphate and G3P, that is glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. That means nothing but the ribose 5 phosphate, whatever the compound which is having 5 carbons, 2 carbon moiety is transferred to the xylulose 5 phosphate to form it to convert it into a pseudoheptylose 7 phosphate. Now again upon the pseudoheptylose 7 phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, transaldolase will act and form erythrose 4 phosphate and fructose 6 phosphate. Again this erythrose 4 phosphate and xylulose, so here xylulose 5 phosphate and this erythrose 4 phosphate are combined to form fructose 6 phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, and reversal reaction of glycolysis and the glycolysis Krebs cycle, everything will be carried. So this is about the HMP shunt, and here in this HMP shunt we have both oxidative and non-oxidative phases. In the oxidative phase, normal pathway of this particular HMP shunt is seen, a sequential reactions will be observed, and in the non-oxidative phase, a complex reactions will be seen. And coming to this HMP shunt, it is an anabolic pathway and it is an alternative pathway to glycolysis and TCA cycle. That means here, in the absence of glucose, this particular HMP shunt is carried for the process of this oxidation of glucose. Okay, and the location is as usual cytosol of liver cells, adipose tissue, adrenal gland, erythrocytes, testis, and lactating mammary glands are the major places where this particular glycolysis, where this particular HMP shunt will be taken place. So this is about HMP shunt. So write the notes clearly. If you have any doubts, please contact me. And while writing this pathway, please be careful because it is little complex, and write the structures properly. Along with notes, please practice the structures. You have a number of structures regarding this particular biochemistry paper. So prepare with complete concentration and utmost care while reading this biochemistry paper. So this is about this class. Thank you, students.